right, let's do this. Greetings, welcome back to the Uper Farmer here. Episode 6. Seems to be going pretty good. Quick update, I do have a new camera setup with a new light, which seems to be actually working quite well. It's got some filters and different settings. The set I bought also comes with its own external mic, which I'm using. I did a little bit of testing, wasn't really 100% satisfied with this mic. I think it's going to catch up too much echo and background noise. I did buy a brand new headset, so we'll probably be reintroducing the headset into these videos. It really gives a lot more crisper audio in my opinion. Less echo, less white noise and background noise. For tonight we have the H. Upmann Perlado cigar. Another Connecticut wrapper, nice light cigar. Enjoying it so far, just starting. As far as the beverage, Mr. Hyde Ale, brewed here in Michigan from the Greenbush Brewing Company. The next few beers actually will be Michigan beers. Most of them are. The place I get it at locally here, they like to stock a lot of Michigan beers. So even though they're calling this one an ale, it is definitely on the darker spectrum, looking more like a stout or a porter. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's a good name for that. That actually, the Mr. Hyde Ale, brewed with coffee. I don't get a lot of coffee in it. A little bit on the aftertaste actually, now that I kind of let it sit there for a second. Got some coffee going. A lot smoother than a lot of the more recent stouts and darker beers I've had, so not bad at all. So one of the things I've kind of learned or figured out while doing these series is I really do have to pick a topic. Just kind of going in more or less dry, shooting for stuff on the fly. It's all right. It's fun. I enjoy doing it. But when I review some of the videos, sounds really choppy, disorganized. You can tell when I'm rambling really quickly. Will I be scripting them? No, probably not. I don't enjoy that at all. Now notes of stuff I might want to talk about, that definitely will probably be a staple kind of going forward. I'm also hoping I can start getting them out quicker. It takes about a week, as you probably have noticed when I give the dates. About a week for me to get these out, and that's all right. I don't mind that at all. Again, I'm doing a lot of this just as an experiment. Mostly for me, I'm not doing it to make money or become some YouTube star. I very much enjoy the process of making videos and building my skill. Stuff like working with this new light I have. I have a nice little blue filter on it. It's not great for showing up skin tones, but as far as setting up like a still life like this, not bad. I'm actually enjoying it. There's a few other filters I have and some other settings in the light. Be warned, I'm going to be playing with all that coming up here soon. But anyhow, the topic talking tonight, again, I'm hoping that these videos out a little quicker. But let's talk about Thanksgiving. We just had the Thanksgiving holiday happen. Has to be one of my favorite holidays, which is quite interesting given my history with Thanksgiving. As I think I've mentioned definitely in other videos, and if you read any of the descriptions, I've been in EMS going on 20 years now. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my time on the rig and responding. But for about 10 years of my EMS career, my duty day was Thanksgiving. I always work Thursdays. A lot of fun, good times, but we'd have station Thanksgivings. One of my first Thanksgivings actually that I had to work, newly married, and was kind of pulled away from having my Thanksgiving dinner as I worked a straight 24 on Thanksgiving. Now, granted, excellent holiday pay. I really would, that Thanksgiving holiday, I would pay for Christmas for many, many years for my family. Due it to the holiday pay I'd get on that. But I came from a family, a large family, who made really big meals when it came time for holidays. And I didn't think I could get that. There was only going to be two of us at the station my first Thanksgiving there. I just, you're not going to make a huge meal. My wife at the time was pregnant, so she didn't really want to be doing a lot of cooking and running back and forth to the station. So I kind of decided to team up with dispatch and law enforcement, and let's have a Thanksgiving meal. They were all really supportive of the idea. They absolutely loved it. It had never really happened with any consistency in the county before. So I decided to kick it off. Now, I would love to say the first Thanksgiving with Central and Law and Fire was this huge meal with all the dressings and decked out and whatnot. And no, because it was one of the first meals and I was still a new hire, I decided to go a little low key. So what you can do is you get garlic bread or garlic toast, the stuff you can heat up in the oven. You toast that. You put on mashed potatoes on, or you put sliced turkey on that. You then heat that up in the oven for a few minutes, probably under the broiler works best. Mashed potatoes, again, heat that. Put stuffing on top of that. Throw some gravy and some cheese on top. And you have these beautiful little Thanksgiving pucks or Thanksgiving sliders, whatever you want to call them. It was a tremendous hit. The guys loved it at Central Dispatch. The officer who was on came over and ate a bunch. We even had the backup crew, the guys who were on call at the ambulance station, come and enjoy some good old-fashioned, portable, easy to move to the dispatch building Thanksgiving dinner. It went off so well that it became a tradition. I would still continue to make these Thanksgiving dinners and bring them out to the station. I'd sometimes have them order them. You can sometimes order these Thanksgiving dinners, have them delivered out there. Every now and then, I still send those guys at dispatch. I'll send them Christmas baskets and stuff like that. That's, again, part of that bond you build in EMS is really connecting with these people and building some really good, lasting relationships. So, for about 10 years, I never once had a Thanksgiving with my family, with my wife, with my kids, with my in-laws. I always had them at the station. Well, that coffee's really hitting now that it's been sitting there for a while. Now you can really, really get that hit of coffee. It's definitely more of a porter than a stout. Until finally one year, there was some major life incidents that happened for both me and my wife, and we kind of both agreed it was time for me to start spending more time with my family, with my kids, with my wife, even with my in-laws. So I had one of the first Thanksgivings ever, and I was the outcast. I did not belong. There were traditions they had that did not include me. There were, I didn't know what the order was, who gets to eat first, who cuts the turkey, who does whatever. It really was kind of this interesting phenomenon when that Thanksgiving cemented to me that I needed to make some changes. Again, I love EMS. I'm a big fan of EMS. I'm always very supportive of it. But I realized that I had a family that had a family life that didn't include me. So that Thanksgiving is the one that kind of got me to back off from EMS and to start focusing more on being with my family. Saying yes to less and less shifts, not pulling as much overtime, not trying to get special licenses so I'd have to work harder and more hours. That then became the norm where before I worked every shift. Did critical care transfers, I did pediatric transfers, Usually, if they called, I'd answer, and normally I'd say yes. I was one of those guys. I'd always say yes to extra hours and extra shifts. But it finally got to that point where I realized I couldn't keep doing that. I was missing out on my family. So Thanksgiving really became kind of my holiday. It's one of those ones, usually the weather is really crummy up here in the UP, really horrible for traveling. So, as far as going out and visiting other relatives or going to see family, it just really didn't happen. It wasn't wise. Normally, there's always massive snow and ice storms around Thanksgiving. It's always a crapshoot whether or not you can actually get somewhere successfully. So, this really has become a time when I could kind of build my family, become more of the family man I always thought I was and at least wanted to be. So, for the last many years, I've tried to make Thanksgivings put a little extra effort in. Last year, we actually had an interesting Thanksgiving where the power went out. We had a power outage, massive ice storm, again, like we have on most Thanksgivings. It was out for 3 days. So it went out, was it Thanksgiving morning? And then it was out for about 3 days after that. Maybe it went the night before Thanksgiving it went out. And it was out for 3 days after that. Like I said, I've done a lot of prepping, preparing. Again, that's kind of the farmer preparing. It's not like I was loading up bandoliers of bullets and pulling out MREs. More, we had kerosene heaters going. We had some camp stoves going. We were able to make some canned food and some stuff on the little camp stove with the frying pan. We did have the hookups for the generator. We didn't have a generator. Now we do. So that problem wouldn't happen again. But my kids really did say this was one of their favorite Thanksgivings. We didn't have any power. We had to stay pretty much together in one room. We ran tablets until they were dead. But then we played a lot of board games and read books. And something we had been doing a little bit was to play Dungeons and Dragons with the kids. Well, it had been my plan to kind of have a Thanksgiving Dungeons and Dragons game, but with the help of my wife, we kind of took it to the next level. So to play, we had to play by candlelight. So the whole place was lit up like a big cave or a big dungeon. We had gotten them special drawings of their characters done. We had folders, we had background stories, and we had a really well put together campaign for the kids to run. And they still talk about that to this day, how even this last Thanksgiving, they really wanted to kill the power, turn off the power to the house so they could relive that really good memory they had of basically being in a disaster. I always chuckle, and that's one of the things I'll probably use in future stories and trainings about resilience. Resilience is that idea if you have three people in a boat, all three fall out of the boat. The guy who's prepared has a life jacket. So he's prepared, he's got a life jacket, he's going to go bob off in the water. You have another guy who is, the other two are totally unprepared, but one of them panics. And he panics and he drowns. The other one realizes he was wet and decides this is the best chance to swim. The moral of the story, everyone got wet in that story. The only person who drowned was the one who wasn't resilient, the one who couldn't accept where he was and basically move on, make the best of it. And there's also a parallel that you have the guy with the life jacket on. He starts to panic too, but at least he has a life jacket and keep him afloat. Where the guy who doesn't panic, he's still wet, but he's going to make the best of it. That's resilience. That's moving on. I'm really glad my kids got to experience that resilience. There are lots of people in the area who had the same power outage as we did, definitely were not resilient. They were freaking out. They were panicking. Yeah, sure, we had a little bit more prepared, but it's that resilience, that taking what happened to us and moving forward. So this last Thanksgiving, we did not turn off the power. We did have a tradition. Now I think our new tradition is playing Dungeons and Dragons. So we had a Dungeons and Dragons one-shot quest. The kids really got a kick out of. The kids also decided to do some medieval type food to go along with their one-off quest. went really, really well. I very much enjoy Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people are very put off by the holiday, the meaning of Thanksgiving, as far as how it was originally, quote unquote, came about. And there's a lot of misinformation about it, of course. You can do your own research and find out what's the truth. Was it really, if you read history books, or the history books I had growing up, they talked about how the Pilgrims and Indians got together, and by working together, they were able to survive the harsh winter. Well, spoiler alert, one, that winter was no more harsh than any other winter that the natives had really encountered at that time. They really didn't need the Pilgrims' help. My guess is it was more very, or it was very one-sided. It was the Indians helping the Pilgrims through that winter. One of the funniest stories is if you read old journals. Some I like to read again. I listen to a lot and watch some videos on them. They talk about one of the settlers during the time of the Pilgrims got to know a Native American, started to learn the language, and he wrote in his journal that these natives knew these explorers, these settlers needed help because they were walking on the beach talking about how they were starving as they were stepping on food, which was clams and different crustaceans, that they were actually walking over a plentiful bounty of food that was there for the picking, and they just didn't know any better. And they were walking on top of food while talking about being starving. So I do get that sense that there is a history of that causes people to dislike the holiday with what it's associated with. The Pilgrims, the landing at Plymouth Rock, and then the genocide that followed of a Native American people. One, it was not founded back then. It was many years after that, even centuries after that, when the idea of Thanksgiving was proposed during a time when our country really needed to step back and realize that things would get better. There was a lot going on when the first Thanksgiving that we celebrate, the actual recognized federal holiday Thanksgiving. A lot of turmoil, a lot of strife, a lot of suffering. It was propaganda, essentially. Sit down, step back. You know what? Yep, life is bad, but let's be thankful. Let's find things that we're thankful for. And I doubt the people who actually proposed this were thinking about it, but what this holiday really does is builds resilience. It allows you to stop and pause. Granted, once a year is pretty sad that this is something some people only do once a year. No matter how bad things are, there is some good. There are a lot of things you can be thankful for. Me as a Catholic, very devout, very dedicated Catholic, I'm constantly seeing things to be thankful for. There are lots of things I thank God for. Things could be worse. Things could be tougher. There's a lot more strife and suffering that I've been spared throughout my entire life, and I can see that. So I'm thankful that I never had to take those trials. So that's another reason why I really love Thanksgiving. It builds resilience. It teaches you to at least once a year, now again, you should do it more than that, to stop and think about what you should be thankful for. There's a interesting joke done by Larry the Cable Guy. Talks about he had his, I think it was a cousin or a sister, full of moles, had moles everywhere. And he decided to take her. She was really depressed with all these moles, very self-conscious. So he took her to a flea mart to go shopping and kind of, get a break. And as he's walking through, he says, he sees there's this vendor selling shoes, and he's got no legs. So he turns to her and says, you should be grateful. You have, two good legs. And here's a guy selling shoes, and he can't even wear them. And as she's kind of peps up a little, yep, things could be worse. And as she walks by, the vendor talks to his buddy. He says, oh my God, you see the moles on that girl? Oh, I'm glad I don't have those. A lot of stuff that we could be thankful for is perspective. There's stuff that, you know what, I'm willing to suffer through whatever. My dyslexia is one of them. I talk about how I'm very thankful for it, actually. I complain about it, I bitch about it, I moan about it, but in truth, it made me who I am. Allowed me to overcome something when I was very young. When I overcame my dyslexia, again, I always have it, but I've learned ways to manage around it. I could use those same management techniques in other aspects of my life. So it really wasn't that bad. Again, that's resilience. That's building resiliency. There are things we can't change. Just like falling on the boat. You are now wet. You have two choices, though. You can sink or you can swim. The resilient person realizes they're wet, overcomes it, and starts swimming. The non-resilient person realizes they're wet and just drowns. So, to me, that's what Thanksgiving really embodies. It embodies this fact that we should be thankful for what we have. Again, it can be relative. You could have, I'm thankful I have a roof over my head. Or, I have a roof over my head, but at least, you know what, I may not have a running car. I may not have a good job. I may not feel fulfilled, but I've got a roof over my head. There might be a guy who doesn't have a roof over his head, but you know what? I'm glad I'm a free person. I don't have to have a job I don't like. Whatever. It's all relative again. Just because, one person has one thing doesn't mean someone else. Everyone should have that. So maybe everyone shouldn't have a dedicated job where they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Maybe someone's just happy to be free, that they don't have a boss or they don't have that much stress. Yeah, sure, they don't have the luxury and the cars and the house, but you know what? They're their own free person. They can do what they want. So it's something I've always had people complain about, we shouldn't go Black Friday shopping or shopping on Thanksgiving. I totally disagree with that. One, those people, some of them, they need that money. They're happy to work. I was really happy that when I worked Thanksgiving, I made enough money to pay for Christmas, essentially. I didn't need a day to be thankful. Especially working on the ambulance, being thankful for what I have was something I did on a daily basis. To thank God that, I came home from work and I wasn't dead. To thank, I'd see a child who was disfigured or maimed or sick and be thankful that, you know what, my kids are very healthy, all things considered. So I think we should have Thanksgiving every day. Again, as a Catholic, it's something we're encouraged. We're encouraged to be thankful, to stop and think about all the good that we've had. Things could be a lot worse. I'm sure you might lose your job, you might hit a deer, you might, whatever. Bills are through the roof, stress is through the roof, but it could be worse, and we should be thankful that it isn't. So I have always really liked Thanksgiving, especially since being in EMS. It's been one of my favorite holidays. I was really glad I could share it again with my family. I look forward to sharing more Thanksgivings in the future. But even if I don't live to see the next Thanksgiving, I have Thanksgiving every day. I'm thankful for what I have. I'm with my family. I thank God for everything that's gone right, and pray for Him to help me guide me through the stuff that isn't going right. So, again, that's kind of my favorite holiday. I'll leave it off there before I start rambling too much. Hope you guys are enjoying this video, and we'll talk to you later.